All right. Hey, everyone. It looks like we are live here. So I just want to start with saying thank you for joining us today on our cybersecurity webinar. We're really excited to have you here today. We've got a really good hour of information from some really good experts. My name is Jeff Clemens. I'm the program chair at Bow Valley College. You can see me, I have a little less hair now thanks to COVID. I have the honor of getting to introduce our speakers today. So our first speaker is Noor Abid. She is a cybersecurity instructor here at Bow Valley College. She got her MSc in Electrical and Computer Engineering at U of C. She has her IBM Mastery Awards in Application Security Engineer and Security Intelligence, and has definitely taught me a lot over the past few months. So thanks, Noor. And then we also are lucky enough to have Sergeant Raymond Kelly from Calgary Police Service here today. So he has been a member of the Calgary Police Service since 2009. Prior to that, he worked with the Police Service of Northern Ireland for 6 years. And during his time with CPS, he worked in numerous different capacities, working as a patrol detective in the General Investigation Unit, drug undercover street team, and being embedded in cybersecurity. So Sergeant Kelly now leads one of the 2 cybercrime teams for Calgary Police Service. So thank you for joining us today, Raymond. So with that said, thank you for joining us. Stick around, there will be some questions at the end and then an exciting giveaway. So with that said, I'll turn it over to you, Noor, and I'm looking forward to hearing you today. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Jeff. Thank you everyone for spending your time with us this afternoon. Welcome to our webinar on protecting against cyber attacks. My name is Noor, as Jeff mentioned, and I will be presenting today with our guest speaker, Sergeant Ray Kelly. Here's the agenda for today's webinar. We will spend about 35 minutes talking about industry job opportunities as well as cybersecurity topics. At the end of the webinar, we will have about 15 to 20 minutes for the Q&A session. And as Jeff mentioned, for those of you who will stay till the end of the webinar, we will do drawing for the 2 Comic Expo tickets. Okay. In this slide, we have the objectives of our webinar. So we'll go through the IT security employment marketplace, cybercrime, cybersecurity attacks, terms and definitions, ways to help yourself and your organization stay safe. So before we start talking about cyber attacks and ways to help yourselves and your organization stay safe, let's go through the IT security employment marketplace. As you can see from this slide, we have the government field, the financial institutions field, healthcare field, and the corporate field. In the field of IT security, governmental institutions are a key employer in the marketplace. This is because governmental agencies are necessary for cybersecurity of intellectual property, sensitive information, and online aspects of governmental programs. For example, the Canada Revenue Agency website. Because of the importance of the data that governmental institutions are handling, they are prime targets for cyber attacks. An example of that would be the national security information, financial information. So, IT security professionals are constantly needed to help build secure systems, protect systems from ongoing attacks, and investigate any breaches. Governments take this seriously and are constantly looking to keep their systems up to date and secure. They are also continuously looking for security professionals that can do the required tasks. Financial institutions are another great marketplace for IT security professionals. Handling money makes these institutions an obvious target for attacks. As the financial markets continue their shift towards online banking and digital transactions, more security professionals are required to build stronger systems to fend off attackers. IT security is not simply an optional objective for financial institutions. They are legally required to pursue it. This is to ensure the security and confidentiality of customer information and prevent unauthorized access to sensitive information, which could result in harm or inconvenience to customers. Healthcare organizations are another great marketplace for IT security professionals. Being an essential part of society makes hospitals and other healthcare facilities prime targets for cyber attacks. An example of that would be cyber extortion, when system operations are held hostage for ransom, putting the health and safety of patients at risk. These institutions also handle sensitive and confidential information about patients, which must be protected. Healthcare organizations are also required by law to be secure. For example, in Canada, healthcare organizations must comply with the healthcare privacy legislation, which requires them to implement appropriate administrative, physical, and technical safeguards to ensure the security of patients' electronic health information. The corporate world is another essential part of the functioning of society. Money, intellectual property, and confidential information of employees and customers are among the many aspects of the corporate world that need to be protected from cyber threats. Corporations across the globe are excellent marketplace for IT security. In many countries, corporations hire cybersecurity professionals not just as a good business practice to protect their assets, but because they are also legally required to do that. In this slide, we have listed some of the potential graduate career opportunities, such as cybersecurity analyst, IT security specialist, network technician, IT developer, and other jobs as shown in this slide. So why you should care about cybercrime? Cybercrime is widespread and is on the rise. Cybercriminals are developing new and sophisticated techniques for the sole purpose of duping users and extorting money or information, and many of these are common techniques founded on impersonation or fake sender identity or other things. Cybercrime costs millions in lost resources. Cybercrime can happen to anyone. Especially during this time, many organizations are adjusting to the new normal of working from home. That's why it's critical to take precautions and have the right safeguards in place anytime remote work is utilized. In this webinar, we will look at different types of cyber attacks and how these attacks can be detected and prevented. So before we start with the cybersecurity attacks, let's look at some real-life examples. Yahoo announced that 500 million Yahoo accounts were compromised by attackers who gained unauthorized access to its web servers. Information stolen included names, email addresses, phone numbers, birth dates, answers to security questions, and passwords. Security researchers speculate that it was discovered by someone who was watching for data on underground dark web markets that attackers used to buy and sell stolen data. Another example is Hyatt Hotels Corporation reported that cybercriminals successfully attacked restaurants, front desks, and parking facilities at 250 of their hotels worldwide over a 4-month period. The attacker's software was installed on the Hyatt computers and could capture payment card details like cardholder names, card number, expiration dates, verification codes, when the cards were swiped. Security researchers speculate that attackers are keenly interested in attacking the hospitality industry. The third example we have here is the United Airlines announced that the security researcher tampered with the seat electronic box, which is located under some passenger seats. This allowed him to connect his laptop to the in-flight entertainment system. The researcher claimed that he could have caused the airplane to change altitude after manipulating its software. And no surprise, he was immediately banned from all United flights for life. So let's discover the common types of cybersecurity attacks. In this slide, we have these common types. We have malware, social engineering, and DOS and DDoS. Malicious software, or sometimes we call them malware, is one common threat in the cybersphere. The malware usually enters into a system without the owner's knowledge or consent. Many types of malware, including viruses, worms, trojans, etc. So let's briefly discuss these types of malware. When it comes to viruses, their negative effects can include causing repeated computer crashes, erasing files, and meddling with computer security settings. The only way for computer viruses to spread is the transfer of infected files. Worms. Worms, on the other hand, are malicious programs that use computer networks to replicate and send copies of themselves to devices in the network. Worms can consume great quantities of computing resources, slowing down computers and networks. Trojans are programs that do something other than what they advertise. They often contain hidden code that launches the attack, which is sometimes made to appear as a simple data file. Trojans could search the computer for important information or saved passwords, and then transmit that information back to the attacker through a network. Ransomware. Ransomware is software that disables the proper functionality of a device or a network until the attacker receives a ransom. This can be highly profitable if the victims are willing to pay the ransom in order to access their device or network properly again, which is essential for many important sectors like healthcare, where lives are on the line. Finally, we have spyware and adware. Spyware and adware are designed to collect important data from the user's computer and make it available to the attacker. A common example that I'm sure everyone has encountered is pop-up ads. Social engineering are attacks relying on user weaknesses to gather important information. There are two types of social engineering: the physical approach, which includes the dumpster diving, and the psychological approach, which includes impersonation, phishing, and spam. So let's define these terms. Dumpster diving is exactly what it sounds like. It's digging through trash to find information that was not properly disposed of that can be useful in a cyber attack. Impersonation is where the attacker pretends to be someone else in order to trick the victim into giving away their personal information. A common approach for attackers is impersonating a person of authority. An example of that would be an IT manager. Phishing. Phishing is done through email or a messaging app where the attacker claims to be from a legitimate source seeking information, then using this victim's information to steal their identity or for some other form of cyber attack. The emails can be very difficult to distinguish from real emails. Normally, phishing is a very common method of attacks. 97% of all attacks start with phishing. So we have to be aware of that. Spam emails are often used for the distribution of malware to victims. Spam can be spread and sent around thousands of emails very cheaply. Many email programs have built-in filters to separate spam emails from regular emails, but they are never 100% effective. Denial of service, or we call it DOS attacks. DOS attacks are deliberate attempts to prevent unauthorized users from accessing a system by overwhelming it with requests. Most DOS attacks today are distributed denial of service attacks. We call it DDoS. DDoS attacks use hundreds or thousands of devices to flood the server with requests. So after reviewing the common types of cyber attacks, in this slide, we will talk about the threat actors. Who are the threat actors? Threat actor is a general term to describe the individuals who perform cyber attacks. These individuals can have different goals, approaches, levels of sophistication, and resources available to them to pursue their attacks. Threat actors can be categorized accordingly as nation-state actors, cyber criminals, hacktivists, cyber terrorists, thrill seekers, and insider threats. If you can see from this slide, we have the cyber threat actors listed on the left-hand side, and we have their motivation on the right-hand side of this slide. During the COVID-19 pandemic, more people are working remotely and more people are spending more time and money on the internet, greatly increasing the chances of successful cyber attacks. Also, many are desperate during hard financial times, which makes them easier targets for heartless criminals. We have these examples here in this slide. So in the first example, following Prime Minister Justin Trudeau talk about COVID-19 support, cyber fundsters sent a link in text messages to people offering cash as part of the federal government's emergency response benefit. In reality, clicking on the link will lead to fraudulent schemes. The second example that we have here, cyber criminals took advantage of the COVID-19 situation by increasing registration of COVID-19 related websites that are potentially malicious to try to make money from the pandemic. In the third example that we have here, cybersecurity company FireEye provided Forbes magazine with a handful of example spam emails. If you look at this email here, the email will ask you to click on a link or an attachment. They provided these examples so that you can get more information about protecting yourself during the COVID-19 pandemic. The new trend is working from home. Even back in 2017, almost half of Canadian workers did some aspects of their jobs remotely. The number of people working from home has greatly increased recently due to COVID-19 pandemic. Organizations must be able to adapt safely to this new norm. The important thing for organizations right now is being flexible and willing to adjust their operations based on the government safety guidelines, but at the same time, they must do so while ensuring their systems are safe. All employees within an organization have to do their part in protecting the organization's assets. This means that each individual employee should follow the advised security practices of their organization, as to not put the organization at risk. So this means that cybersecurity is everyone's responsibility. Ways to help yourself and your organization stay safe. Here are some general quick tips to do that. First, understand the potential threats you could be facing, whether that be malware, phishing emails, etc. Relevant to that, you should be careful of unusual or unexpected communications. Know who you are communicating with and avoid responding to suspicious emails. When accessing the internet, do your best to stick to secure sites and download things only from reliable sources. Many web browsers have a little log symbol where the URL address goes. This is a basic safety feature that indicates that your connection to the website is secure. A tip for mobile users is to only download apps that are listed in the main app store on your device, as those are generally tested and safe, while nothing guarantees that any apps downloaded from a random website is safe for your device. It's also important to know where to get reliable information about any potential cyber threats and what you should do about them. Anything money related, you should double check the transaction to ensure the correct amounts and recipients. And if possible, use multiple communication methods to confirm that the transaction is going to the right place. Your IT personnel are an excellent source for you to consult about your cybersecurity. It's literally their job. So it is their job to know about this stuff, so talk to them, and when in doubt, ask their advice. Finally, it's really important that you report malicious communications to your organization so they can be aware and better prepared to address future attacks and potential breaches. It's really great way to pool the knowledge information about cyber threats from everyone as to improve everyone's cyber safety. Always work while on a secure network. If possible, choose a non-private Wi-Fi over an open public Wi-Fi because the private Wi-Fi is more secure for important or confidential correspondence. Use a work-provided or personal VPN. Consider using a work-provided mobile device to set up your Wi-Fi hotspot in order to get internet access on a computer or a laptop. So we talked about the general ways to stay safe online. Now we will discuss specific things you can do to stay secure. So when working through your home network, make sure to use a strong password and enable the encryption, WPA2. Change your network name and password as often as needed. If you are using an old router, consider upgrading for the better security features. Try also to turn on the guest network option for all non-work IoT devices in the household. And finally, consider turning off the WPS option on your router. When it comes to passwords, don't reuse the same password across accounts. Even more importantly, never use personal account passwords on work accounts or devices. Consider using a password manager. Password manager can safely store all your long, unique passwords in one easily accessible place. Try to create passphrase rather than a single word or number series. Don't use work devices for personal business. Two-factor authentications is a way to confirm the identity of the user by checking their login information through the two different methods. It is highly recommended when possible. It will add extra layer of security for little effort from the user. Automatic updates ensures you are getting the benefits of all the current security features available. Avoid the temptation to continually postpone updates since you would usually see them when you are using your device for something else. Remember that updates will be much faster if you are only one patch behind rather than 4, 5. When it comes to the confidentiality of personal and company information, it must be protected. It's not only a moral and legal obligation, but a way of maintaining trusting relationship with both clients and employees. There are many ways for you to protect the confidentiality of the information you are working with. For example, consider using a privacy screen filter, avoid clutter around your workspace, and the other examples listed here. Personal devices. Sometimes you can use your personal device for specific work tasks, but not others. So, talk to your management and learn how you are expected to perform key remote tasks. And if you are allowed to use a personal device for some or even all your work-related tasks, you have to make sure it is safe for you to do so. So keep your device up to date, be careful with new apps, and have a reliable antivirus. Cybersecurity frameworks. So these frameworks provide cybersecurity references and guidelines that organizations can use to secure their networks from security threats. So there are many great cybersecurity frameworks, so that are some are industry specific and others can be applied to any organization. An example of the cybersecurity frameworks, we have the ISO, we also have the NIST cybersecurity framework. So that's all with me. Now I would like to invite our guest speaker, Sergeant Ray Kelly from the Calgary Police Service, to share with us a police perspective on cybersecurity. So, Sergeant Kelly, take it away.
Thank you, Noor, and thanks for the invite. I know that there's a time at the end with Q&As. I'll just start off something that I immediately get asked is how big is our team within the Calgary Police Service? We have two teams, two sergeants. I am one, and my counterpart is the other. Both teams are teams of 7, and what the two teams of 7, what we purely focus on is cyber investigations. That's all that we do. We don't do open source. We don't do anything else. We don't do robberies. We don't do anything. The only thing we do is cyber investigations. That's how much work that we have within Calgary. We are seen as an industry lead within law enforcement. The next team to ours would be the RCMP in Ottawa, but again, they're half our size, so we are seen as a lead. So that's good for Calgary, good for Gold Valley, should some students have interest. So dealing with cyber from a police perspective, as I say, we are very busy. One of our biggest issues that we face as a police service, and Noor has actually touched on some things, is getting the victim to report the incident to police. The reason is some businesses are embarrassed. If they tell us, they have to tell the privacy commissioner as well. If there's been a breach, which opens them up not only to PR, but they could end up being sued. I mean, and it could also cost them. I'm sure some of you good folk have received something in the mail at some time from a bank or a Visa card saying that there's been a breach, and as a result, they're going to pay your Equifax bill for the next 5 years. So there's also real costs to them. So that's our first issue within Calgary, and it is something that we are trying to address. We've actually began a group with corporate Calgary only called the Corporate Cyber Calgary Alliance, the CCCA, and the purpose of that is to build up trust between corporate Calgary and law enforcement so that they will speak to us. And from that, and from the calls that we have received, the biggest threat that we see to an organization right now, unfortunately, is the employees. And not to say that the employees are up to anything wrong or doing something questionable, but there's a lack of education within the workplace, and I'm talking within IT companies as well. As Noor has actually said as well here, they may get a phishing email, they'll click it without thinking, they may find a USB within a parking lot, they'll walk right into their office, they'll plug the USB in, and lo and behold, there's now malware. And to that end, malware and ransomware specifically would be our biggest threat right now within Calgary. We're seeing a massive increase. If I'm doing cyber on and off through different teams, probably over 10 years. And I remember the first ransomware calls that we would get, and the ransoms were quite small. They wanted maybe the bad actor wanted maybe $200, $300, $400 in Bitcoin. We have now actually seen ransomware calls within Calgary, and we have had a recent one, and we will never disclose who the victim is for privacy, but we've had one where they are looking for a ransom of $10 million. The companies are paying these, and it's we would never advise anyone to pay it. The issue is you pay it. Who's to say that the ransom that the ransomware is not still there? And we've seen that as well. We've seen ransomware before you'd click a link, the ransomware would immediately infect. You'd get a note on your screen, pay this to decrypt your files. Away you go, you pay it, or you don't, or you restore from a cold storage backup of some sort, you're good. But what we've also seen now is that companies are getting hit with ransomware weeks in advance prior to the notice coming up on their screen. And the purpose for that is that whenever they do their backups, they're backing up the ransomware. So they find the ransomware, they clean it, but they'll restore from a backup for maybe 3-4 weeks, or even 3-4 months when it actually took place. Very smart move. And then we're seeing an increase specifically since COVID. Actually, we've actually seen an increase in the ransomware actually taking files. Traditionally, the ransomware attacks would they would encrypt the files, but they wouldn't actually take data. There is a reason for that. The reason is if a company's IT department sees high bandwidth going out of their office, they know that somebody's pulling files out. So what they used to try and do is throttle back the bandwidth. The bad actors to try and hide that. They're back doing that again, and what they're doing it for, they don't want the data. So what they're doing, again, quite smart, they're always coming up with new ways to unfortunately exploit victims. What they're doing is, if the victim does not pay the ransomware, they will sell the data online, but they'll give you an opportunity as the victim to purchase it first. And we've actually seen where people have paid the ransom and then they've had to buy their data back as well. But who's to say there isn't another copy of that? And there was one major case that got very quiet, where I'm not mentioning any names, as I've said, but it may be a president south of the border got data taken, sold online, and they purchased it out of fear of the data being exposed. So this is a new technique that we are seeing. With COVID, going back to Noor's point again, with COVID, with more people working from home, the whole fear factor, it's in the news. People are getting played upon. The bad actors are playing on this fear, and one of the techniques that they've used on that would be not so much here's your payment or here's a guide, because a lot of those times people will just delete them, but they'll have a targeted email to someone. So they will actually socially they'll look at your social profiles, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, whatever it might be, try and get your email, your name, your information. Then they'll email you specific. So they may send me an email, hey Ray, this is the Alberta Health Service. We just want to make you aware, as a concerned citizen within Calgary, that a number of people in your neighborhood have been infected with COVID. But don't worry, here's an Excel sheet that has a map of nearest test centers, and here's a form that you can print out and you can go and get tested to ensure that you're safe. And again, the printed out form is just a Word document. There's nothing nefarious in it. The Excel sheet is just an Excel sheet. But what the Excel sheet does is when you open it, it asks the people, the recipient, to enable macros to view the maps. And by enabling the macros, because people want to see those maps, they click enable, and that allows a remote session and a download of files from the Excel sheet from a web server to the laptops or desktops, whatever it might be. So they're getting smarter and they're playing on people's fear. And as Noor said, that's part of the social engineering of people as well, dealing with people's emotions, fear, panic, etc. Going back to the reporting side, what we are currently doing as well is what we're actually getting corporate Calgary, and not just like we're encouraging corporate Calgary first, because they are the people seeing the biggest attacks, and they have tons of data. So for example, if raykelly.com is attacking Bow Valley by a phishing email campaign, whatever it might be, Bow Valley may know that, but they're not really being a victim because they're blocking it. So why tell the police? There's no need. So what's been developed right now alongside with corporate Calgary and through sponsorship and that is a online reporting system for incidents where you're not necessarily a victim, but it's intelligence. And then what would happen if Bow Valley, for example, reports inputs the data, Bow Valley's been attacked 6 times by raykelly.com, we can pass that out to multiple corporate partners without disclosing that the information came from Bow Valley, so that we're not sharing victim or corporate information. And then what can happen is the University of Calgary can maybe take that and say, okay, we're going to blacklist raykelly.com straight away, so we don't ever get attacked. And that's from the intel side. So we are looking at the threat landscape to try and combat ongoing threats that maybe aren't resulting in a direct financial loss or victim. What else? The other types of attacks that we would see really for businesses would be the boss scams. Quick, I need you to do a transfer. Again, social engineering. One that's brought its head up again for the public is the split screen scam. And as Noor spoke about there as well, there's multiple platforms that have been compromised for multiple years. There's LinkedIn, there's Yahoo, there's multiple. And if you've ever used that platform, then your details have been shared with bad actors. And what the split screen thing essentially is doing is, hey, I see that you were on a nefarious site or questionable site. Just so you know, while you were on that website, I accessed your webcam and I videoed you, and you were doing X, Y, and Z, or whatever it might be. I'm going to share this with your friends and family unless you pay me a small payment. And comical side was the small payment used to be like $100. Now they're asking like $4,000 or $5,000. And what they'll do is they'll share a password or they share the username, and what they're getting that information from possibly the LinkedIn breach, the Yahoo breach, whatever it might be, hoping that you're using the same password on multiple platforms. So again, instilling fear that you need to do something. So as Noor said, I completely agree 100%. You should never use the same password on any platform. And people ask me all the time, crikey, I can't remember 2 passwords, never mind 20. So, and then the next question that usually comes up is password vaults. Can I use a password vault? And then somebody quite rightly asks, well, what if the password vault gets compromised? No, my passwords are now known. That is quite true. So a little quick tip, because I am on a timer. Quick tip, I do encourage password vaults. When I tell, when I do a conference or a teaching, whatever, I tell people, use a password vault, but think of a keyword. Don't tell anyone that keyword. Input your password into the password vault, but on the real password, when you type it into Facebook, you put the password from the password vault plus your keyword. Your keyword is never shared with anyone. It never comes out of your lips. It's never shared onto the password vault, and that means you can use a password vault. So if it ever is compromised, they still don't have your password. Very simple technique to use a password vault, but again allows you to use multiple passwords across multiple platforms. Yeah, so that's that. A few other things I'll just touch on in terms of what we see as well. Just in terms of employees, you're all obviously interested in this space. I would assume that a lot of you will end up in this space. Please, for the love of God, when an employee leaves your corporation or leaves your business, de-authenticate them. Remove their credentials from every system, not some, but every. We have seen attacks of remote desktop connections, and we've done a lot of work, and it comes back to a previous employee who is basically pissed off because they've been fired, etc. So they want to basically come back, attack the company, or steal data, and we've seen that as well. And again, so just a common sense thing there. Again, as Noor said, she's covered a lot of great stuff there. Two-factor authentication. You should be rotating your passwords all of the time, changing them frequently. Yeah. So and again, you're never going to stop every threat, and that's what we tell victims as well. You're never going to stop every threat. These bad actors, that's all they want. They only need a quick win, a quick cash payout, and they are happy. But remember, as police, we only need one mistake. These people are very good at what they do. Fortunately, we are very good at what we do, and we need that one mistake. And that one mistake is just like pulling on a thread. And we have had a lot of very good success within Calgary specifically. And yeah, again, I know the question is going to come up. Can we go and get experience with Calgary? Just so you know, from that, we are exploring that with Bow Valley. We are exploring. It's in the works. Everything was kind of put on hold with COVID, but it is in the works. And because I know somebody's going to ask that. And I will pass it back to our presenter.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing your perspective with us today. We appreciate you taking the time to provide us with such valuable information. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it. So now we'll talk about the Cybersecurity Post-Diploma certificate that we have at Bow Valley College. So this, in our program, we have 2 terms. Term 1 courses includes the Introduction to Information Security, Introduction to Endpoint Security, Network Security, Cryptography, Contingency Planning and Disaster Recovery, Security Frameworks, and Risk Management. Term 2 includes these courses: vulnerability management, advanced network security, security exploits and network defense, introduction to cloud security, advanced endpoint security, and finally the cybersecurity professional practice. In our program, we will be covering these certificates: the CISP certificate, CompTIA Security Plus, IBM Cloud Application Developer, and the CISM. So earlier in the webinar, we looked at the job marketplace for cybersecurity, and a great way to enter that marketplace is by acquiring all these certificates through our cybersecurity program. The courses in the program will prepare you for the responsibilities you will have to take on as a cybersecurity professional. So these certificates listed here are essential tools for IT professionals in the job marketplace. In this slide, we can see the certification mapping. So this slide will show the 4 certificates that we are using: the CISP, CompTIA Security Plus, CISM, IBM Cloud Application Developer. And on the left-hand side, we have our courses. So you can see where these certificates are covered in our courses. Now I would like to open it to any questions.
All right, thank you so much for the presentation, 3 presenters. So we do have quite a bit of questions from learners. So I'm going to start with the first one. Hi, I'm the voice behind the thing. I'm Selena, by the way. The first question we got is from Liliana. I think Jeff kind of already addressed it, but I'm just wondering if there's anything to add. But basically, she's asking, is there a market for cybersecurity right now? Jeff, do you mind?
Yeah, for sure. There absolutely is, and I think hearing from Raymond and Noor about the number of issues that keep coming, I think it's just going to keep getting bigger and bigger as all of these people start targeting more and start to look at actually doing this. It's going to become more and more important to keep things safe and protected. So I know we shared a link as well of the jobs, and since I've started looking at this field and we started building this at the school, I've seen more and more building of this, and now I notice those issues the companies are having more.
Thank you. And we have another question that is for Jeff and Nora. And somebody's asking, how is Bow Valley College cybersecurity program known to the industry? Is there a practicum component? Jeff and Nora, please.
Yeah.
Sure.
So we Noor is definitely Noor is the one who should be answering, because Noor is the one who's been connecting with industry and actually meeting people. That's
Sure.
actually how I got connected.
Yeah,
with,
of course. So in our course, sorry. So in our courses, we will learn the theory and the hands-on. We will get like hands-on experience. After that, we have the final course. We will have work integrated learning. So we'll try to work with companies. We'll see if we can do work placements or just work with companies in real projects.
Yeah, and if I can just jump in, Nora, as well,
sure.
Just to advise. So with the Calgary Corporate Cyber Alliance, the CCA, we are in the process of making the Calgary Educational Cyber Alliance. The intention of the Calgary Police is to work with UFC, Bow Valley, SAIT, Mount Royal, etc. And then we would be, I'm also on the board for the CCA, and we would be looking to introduce and to encourage the students from those areas to get places within those corporations and to endorse them through Jeff's and Noor's recommendations.
Thank you. So I see another question here. Do you have lab work or sections and specific industry tools? Yes, so we have labs, and we have also virtual labs. We will use many of the cybersecurity tools. For example, we will use Wireshark to analyze the network traffic. So we have many tools that you will be able to use in our program.
Thank you, Nora. And we have another question, and that is for Raymond. Someone's asking, how can we repost spam calls?
Yeah, I think in terms of repost, you're trying to tell the police that spam calls are taking place. I would assume that's what you're asking. We will not. I'll be honest. We don't have the capacity to investigate spam calls. We will only look at the major cyber calls. What's going to be taking place, as I've said, with the CCCA, we will have a corporate portal to report those types of calls from the corporate side. Once we have that up and going, we are going to open up a version for the public to also do the same, so that we get the intel. The reason for that as well is if we see the same threat actor doing 60 calls, then of course we will then look at that investigation. But if it's one call, we just don't have the capacity.
Thank you, Raymond. And we have a question for all the panelists today. And someone's asking, is cybersecurity analyst the same as information security analyst?
So with cybersecurity, we learn many ways to protect our network, our endpoint devices, and the data. So data in transit, data in storage. So of course, if someone, let's say, have some knowledge about data, it will be very useful. It will help him in the field of cybersecurity industry, because we will learn how to protect this information, this data, again, in storage and transit as well. How to use cryptography, how to encrypt the information, how to send the information in a safe way.
I see. Thank you.
Problem.
Thank you, Nora. The next question is for Raymond. This is a very interesting question. Someone's asking, have you caught any perpetrators before?
Yeah, we have lots. And I just want to go back to the last question. I did see a comment there asking, I think somebody said, is it for those spam calls, outside call it shows within Canada, how can we do those? Just for your awareness, CRTC, we are working, not just us, RCMP as well, to release software where they will not be able to do that any longer. It was meant to be released in October. It will be coming into play. But yeah, this question, we have caught a lot. To be quite honest, we've done a lot of investigations. I've been doing cyber investigations, let's say, for over for the Calgary Police since 2014. We have caught. I can't disclose some of their names because they're now subject of further investigations. But we have caught people within Calgary who have a national interest for Canada and a national interest for the States. And we have got them behind bars. And these are people who thought that they could hide behind Tor, hide behind different networks. And we have had some very good success. The problem with cyber investigations is they're usually, most of the time, they are cross jurisdictions. So it's sometimes we could have a major win, but we can actually not release it into the media because they're subject of another investigation. But we have had some Calgary, without blowing our own pipe here, we are seen as the elite cyber team in Canada right now, and have been for a number of years because of the successes that we've had, not just investigating, but we're actually putting hands on our targets. So.
Thank you very much, Raymond. The next question we have is for Noor and Jeff. Someone's asking, can you move from a data analyst role to the cybersecurity industry?
Yeah, again, so having the knowledge, having the data knowledge is very, I mean, it's very good to have this knowledge when we are talking about cybersecurity industry. In the cybersecurity, we will learn many methods on to protect our network, the endpoint devices, the data. So it's going to be very useful to have some data knowledge, information knowledge.
I see. Thank you very much, Noor.
No problem.
And Raymond, we have a question for you. Someone's asking how easy or difficult to get into the police force of investigators. Raymond, I think you're muted. You might want to open
sorry,
your mic.
yeah, sorry. There we are. Sorry. So yeah, I get this a lot. The dilemma that we face is that currently, and this is the same in most agencies, you must join as a police officer. When you join as a police officer, most agencies require you to be a police officer for, I know with the Calgary Police is for 5 years on the street doing 911 calls before you can transition to a specialty team. That's not to say that within that 5 years you can't do cyber investigations, but you are responsible for those 911 calls. There has been talk about bringing in civilian roles to do it as well. As investigators, that in itself can cause problems because you need to be a sworn police officer to do certain roles like search warrants to write an order to an ISP, for example. So it is been looked at, but currently you are required to join as a police officer and do a certain amount of time on the street, after which time you can specialize. I will caveat that as well in saying that we do have a number of people that do that. I did that. I joined as a cop with a focus on IT. You will get access to training that you will not get access to in the public sector from various partners with various 3-letter names. So which is beneficial if you want to then go to another career within cyber later.
Thank you. And Nora, we have a question for you. Is it absolutely essential to have an IT background? I think this person have worked as a business analyst before.
So as I showed you in one of these slides, we have 2 terms. In the first term, we will start with the fundamental things, and then later on, term 2, we will move to the advanced topics in cybersecurity. But it's good to have some knowledge, some IT background. But again, in the first term, our courses will cover the fundamental things. So it should be fine. But some knowledge, some computer knowledge should be fine.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I think we have a couple more questions. One of the persons is also asking Noor, can you recommend any certifications related to cybersecurity field? So
the most famous certificates in the cybersecurity field are the CompTIA Security Plus, CISP, CISM as well. And we are trying to cover the content of these certificates in our program. So we will be covering these certificates. So those are the famous important certificates in the cybersecurity field.
Thank you. Next question we have is for Ray. Somebody's asking who does the surveillance in the police? I think you're muted again, Raymond. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. Good question. Police officers do surveillance. That's the bottom line. You must be trained in it. Takes multiple weeks of training and then practice before you're even. But yeah, the police officers do it.
Let's see if we have any more questions. No, I think we're good. I think that's all the questions we have for today. Thank you, my panelists. I'm going to pass it back to you guys, okay?
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Selena. Okay, so now we arrive to the fun part. So let's do the drawing for the export tickets and let's see who's the winner. If you can give me a few minutes here. And the winner is Randy Young. Congratulations, yeah, Randy, perfect, very nice. So Randy, we will contact you after the webinar. Congratulations. So thank you everyone for spending your time with us this afternoon. I hope you enjoyed our webinar. Thanks again to our guest speaker, Sergeant Kelly, and our program chair, Jeff Clemens. Thanks also to Victoria, Chris, Selena, Erica, and all the people who supported this webinar. Enjoy the rest of your day and remember to stay safe in person and online as well. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks all. Bye.
Thank you.